Governor Adeleke has won the Osun State governorship election. INEC says Adeleke polled 511,067 votes to defeat his closest challenger, Bola Oyebamiji of the APC, who scored 444,814 votes. The results were all announced from the 30 local government areas. Adeleke's victory secures him a second term in office on the platform of the Accord Party. Now, lawyer Frank Tiete joins us now for further analysis of the exercise. Mr. Tiete, thank you so much for joining us. Always great to have you on the show.
Adeleke has just been...
Thank you. Mr. Tiete, just making sure you can hear us. Can you hear us?
Oh, loud and clear. Yes, very well.
Okay, so the results are in.
Hear me too.
Yes, we can hear you. So the results are in this morning. We've seen Governor Adeleke, former Governor Adeleke, will now be once again Governor Adeleke of Osun State. So I'm just wondering, based on everything that you've observed throughout the election process up until this moment, how would you assess INEC as a player in all of this and the work that they've done from the campaign period up until yesterday? And going into especially the 2027 elections, are there any lessons that we should be taking forward with regards to INEC as an umpire of this kind of event?
Oh, yes. For me, it's congratulations to INEC. INEC has disappointed a number of its critics. INEC has done quite well. It has proven that it can really organize elections despite several hitches, despite the behavioral problems associated with the participant, whether as candidates, electorates, and observers. INEC has proven, from this standpoint where I observed these elections, yesterday I was at the Election Analysis Center of the Center for Democracy and Development, along with Professor Sam Amadi. I also followed very closely the way results were uploaded onto the INEC results viewing portal, and I find that to be very seamless. I don't know what other contrary reports. Sitting on my desk, I was able to see results being uploaded real time. And I was observing that the trends of the results as they came in, and that could now authoritatively give sites like thisdaylive.com to accurately map the results. So a lot more persons already knew the results long before it was declared. Now, as a crass credit to INEC, I remember that particular thing on the screen. I viewed it while I was looking at the IREV portal, and I realized that INEC indeed has quite a lot to improve upon. You can see it, I have a copy here. You can see for everything that was written, there was a cancellation, there was mutilation, there was rewriting, there was sign, there was nothing. And I'm referring to the result. The result from the polling unit of CHS school, Wasimi village. That was a huge embarrassment. That was a huge embarrassment for INEC when you realize that in the entire results I viewed on the IRF portal, this one stood out as something that INEC needs to work upon in terms of the recruitment of its ad hoc staff. One bad apple can indeed spoil the whole lot in the basket. That's the example of what I saw in that polling unit from Wasimi village. So INEC has proven that it can get its operations right when it has all of the resources. So congratulations to INEC. It's on a specific note. It has a lot to learn from. Like I said yesterday, that there will be, problems, but the responsive rate at which INEC resolves those problems will determine how effective it is, and it has proven that it can do that. So this is actually a progress for our democracy. We hope this will translate to better progress in 2027. This election, I think, this Osun election, I think the APC has been better for it. Why do I say that? The president has also disappointed a lot of his critics. Many people thought that with the earlier weaponization of federal agencies and institutions and operational work in Osun State prior to the election, it will be largely rigged, but the president stayed away. the federal mind was not visible. I was speaking to Professor Amadi yesterday as we approached the Center for Democracy Election Analysis Center, and the idea was that there's this observation that there is some measure of restraint on the part of the police and on the part of the army. I hope he speaks to that a lot more later. So far, it has been good. The final analysis on the part of the CDD is that it has been largely peaceful election, though it has been an election that I can refer to as a redefinition of two important things. I know we're analyzing INEC now, but what we have seen so far, because I don't know how much time I've got, so let me quickly let you know that the redefinition of party politics. We've seen that the political parties can be irrelevant when it comes to a charismatic and happy-go-lucky individual like Governor Adeleke. We've also seen that the insurmountable, almost insurmountable problem of vote buying, as we've seen Vimbai rendering that traditional expression there, aptly, interpreted by Dr. Steve, showing that shows that look, voters are now becoming wise, so they collect money and they vote their mind. So the redefinition of the fact that an individual can actually, override and towards so much to the point that political parties' influence now becomes irrelevant is something we must seriously consider in terms of having independent candidacy in the subsequent elections. We're talking about Governor Adeleke, who took a fringe party, a party that was, was nearly irrelevant in national politics, and transformed it into a major force in an election and that delivered. And again, it also shows that the impartiality, the independence, and the manner with which INEC has conducted this election, if it's reassuringly reenacts it in 2027, then we will be making serious progress as a country and as a people, and then we'll congratulate ourselves indeed. INEC has done well. That's what I can say.
All right, Frank, thank you so very much. A couple of questions from me. I like the fact that you mentioned the independent candidacy, which for me speaks to personality and performance, and it shows that that's what played out yesterday. Do you think that this, therefore, should reenact the debate for personality, especially personality, not even performance, personality that people believe can deliver without the so-called party structure? We saw a vestige of it in 2023 with the Obi and the obedience movement, but then Osun has demonstrated it. How do you think that the sort of advocacy that will lead to individuals who might be denied access through party structure, can move forward? And then secondly, we saw in Osun people engagement. We saw Davido basically taking on, the role of 1 million people, giving analysis on a daily basis. And we saw people slept over at INEC headquarters and insisting that we're not fighting, we're not burning any place down, we're not killing anybody, but we want to secure our vote. What lessons can the generality of the country learn from what happened in Osun State overnight so that it can begin to tweak people's mentality towards what might happen in 2027?
Dr. Steve, we had great lessons from Osun State, and they were positive lessons. Many of us were afraid, and some turned to prayer, and again, an expression of the overly influence of religion in our elections. It shouldn't be. Even though we saw songs of praise being given to the Almighty God, as if the Almighty God came down to organize elections or voted. We know the Almighty God reigns over all, but again, we must take responsibility as individuals. See, we learned many lessons. In the lesson of, powerful individuals, influential individuals, charismatic individuals like Adeleke. It also, before the Constitution is amended to allow independent candidacy, now other candidates must now learn that they must not be in APC, they must not be in ADC, they must not be in NDC or in in Accord, to win elections. They can, if they indeed are able to prove themselves. And that's why you should have an individual, legacy, an individual, credential that you can actually allude to whenever you're appealing for votes. Now, the corruption of our democracy has been, associated with the intrigues of political parties. Political parties have become more of a problem. They have not improved our democracy at all. They have not canvassed enough ideology. They have not shown that they are consistent. They are committed to anything but just grabbing power and then becoming anything but, keeping the commitments that they made in terms of build up to elections. So political parties have not been shown to be a problem to our democracy. Therefore, I expect advocacy groups, importantly, Center for Democracy and Development, to now push forth what I call for legislative reforms. And I must also commend the National Assembly, because if you've seen that this election in Osun State has succeeded, it's as a result of the fact that some of those improvements in the Electoral Act, for example, the compulsory uploading of results and the use of IREV as a major reference point in determining what the veracity of results. The National Assembly has an important role to play. So, on a conclusive note, political parties are problematic. Individuals can, rise above political parties and actually deliver, what I say, political promises to the people, and the people can believe in them. But when it comes to lessons to be learned on the part of INEC as we approach the 2027, one thing that is clear is that, it's important that INEC knows that for every election, every election should serve as a building block on the previous one. And Osun has proven that, yes, INEC is making progress, especially in terms of deployment of logistics. We all had our fears. And again, I say this, that this is a disappointment to so many of us that actually expected things to go wrong. Indeed, things didn't go that badly. The president now takes credit, which on his part, I think was smart to have allowed things to go the way they have gone. If it had turned otherwise, even though there were some do or die elements in his political party, many of them who will at this time be very, very sad that things went this way, that the federal might was not used in a nefarious manner it used to be deployed. But you see, the president ultimately is not the one that takes the glory, and then maybe the outcome in his favor. Because right now the perception about him has improved largely across the world with this election. This election was one of the most widely watched elections. Now, personalities play a whole lot in elections. So you are simply, revalidating, the idea that personalities will now, from now on, drive our elections. Davido was an important factor in this election. The way he campaigned, you cannot take it away from him. A global award-winning, musician, ascribing to the fact that his uncle, should be governor, and talks about how good his uncle has been to the people. I watched the previous, clips where a lot was ascribed to the governor's family and how much money they have, and they are able to help people, and they're generous and kind people. So personalities, good name, and all of that were deployed in this election, and it favored Governor Adeleke. These are lessons to be learned, that when individuals come, they must not always depend on godfathers. They must not depend on federal might. They must actually depend on what they are, what they can do, and how much the people believe in them. That's one great lesson for Nigerian politicians to learn from this election.
Fantastic. Mr. Titi, I just want to come back to one previous point that you've made before, because it seems to be your position that federal might wasn't imposed upon this election. But I think a lot of people in Nigeria, and particularly in Osun State, would disagree with that, especially with, the violence that we've seen, the allegations of intimidation and vote buying, even, just this case with the EFCC freezing the Osun State accounts on the eve of the election. A lot of people would say that federal might was attempted, but was actually thwarted. So which would you say? Would you say that, Abuja wasn't trying to impose federal might, or would you say that they tried but were not successful?
They tried, but they were not successful. There were some elements. There were people like Governor Hope Uzodinma, people like Governor Monday Okpebholo. Those people would expected some vicious use of federal might. President Tinubu did himself well by thwarting it. So you were correct. Your letter statement was correct. Federal might was prepared for Osun. And let me tell you, and let us have this understanding, nothing in an election, in a state election, can withstand the might of the federal government when it intends to do damage. And imagine the use of the army restricting people from voting, in strongholds of an opponent, or the policemen, facilitating the snatching of ballot boxes, or ensuring that, and then facilitating, I would say forgery and all of that. You cannot. We have just one. We have a federal police and we have a federal army. So the state having no control of any security force whatsoever. So if the federal government, if a wicked, nefarious and irresponsible federal government decides to do damage to any election, it will be unstoppable. So the president has done well. And this pattern must be observed, especially in the coming national elections in 2027. If that happens, President Tinubu, even if he loses the election,
Mr. Tete, sorry, I have to, yes, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I have to ask, because you said, okay, you agree that the federal might was thwarted, but how can you say that, it was thwarted by the person who the use of federal might is being alleged against? How can Tinubu be trying to use federal might, but also be the same one thwarting it? I don't know how that works.
You don't know how it works. Let me tell you how it works. The president sits there quietly in his villa, and then people are going all over in his name, dropping his name, making demands in his name. The president said, they goes to the army, they go to the police chief, they go to whoever, and say the president said do this. The president says do this. And if that positive statement from the president did not come, do not interfere in this election. Everybody, institutions and agencies play fair. And now, it was a smart move. And you see, it simply shows that there were some people thinking for the president, knowing that it would have been debilitating for the president, disastrous for the president, if it was observed in the Osun elections that he indeed, misused and abused presidential powers. Let me tell you, our country will not see this peace we are experiencing this morning. So it was a very smart move. I don't know that whether this will replicate itself in 2027. If it happens, we will have got a milestone in progress in terms of our democracy. And that's what I was about to say, that Mr. President, you do not always have to win. But you see, there are some things you would do as president. Just look at Goodluck Jonathan, a one-term president. Look at how he's celebrated all over the world. The other day I got a call informing me that President Goodluck Jonathan is being selected to become the next UN Secretary General. Imagine that. However flimsy, however unverified it may be. The point is that look at him. He's a one-term president. He's now being canvassed to become a global leader of the United Nations. Now, you don't always have to win, but leave legacies that are enduring, and then you will be praised all over the world. You see, the president has done well. I am a critic of the president, a known critic of the president. On this note, he's done well, and this must be replicated in 2027 elections.
Well, thank you so much for that, Mr. Tete. I think we'll leave it there for that conversation today. Always great to have you on the show.